Hi, Zachary. We'll get started here in just a few. All right, Zachary, thank you for joining in. We'll go ahead and get started.
Oh yeah, sorry. Like I was trying to fix. I have two monitors, so I was trying to get it set up to hear you. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's no problem at all. I'm just getting set up myself, so you're fine.
Okay. Yes.
All
Thank
right,
you.
so you should be seeing the course homepage now. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let me go ahead into the weekly overviews. And here we are this week. As a reminder, your project article needs to be approved by this weekend, by Saturday. I think you were in my lecture class this morning, am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so basically,
It wasn't a
same stuff.
lecture. It was a class. Yes.
Yeah,
Perfect. Yeah.
yeah. So the same stuff that you have to do for lecture, you have to do for lab, because remember, you need two different articles.
Two different ones. So I have to do two separate ones for the same thing, basically.
Yeah,
Correct.
right. You're gonna follow the same instructions, but you're gonna be doing it with two different articles. You're gonna write two different summaries, right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
same principle, but
Yeah.
different articles, basically.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Right. Okay. So with that, I'll jump into today's material on gravitation. That's the topic we've been covering in lecture class. So that's the experiment you're going to be doing this weekend. So I'll cover the experiment and then in the post lab and talk about what you have to submit for the lab report. If you need some extra materials, I'll bookmark some items in the lecture textbook that can help you, plus some videos and these are pretty much the same resources that you have access to in lecture class. So if you're using those for lecture, they'll work just as fine for lab. All right, so let's get into the experiment. As you know, the routine by now, you're gonna go out to the website, okay? Click on the website. And it says in the handout to click the big red 5, but they've revamped these. So now it's only a play button that you click on, right? I was hoping that, at some point I hope to go back and like redo all the handouts that I have on Canvas, but that takes some time. And so, instead of hitting the big red 5, because that's what they used to have to launch these things, just hit the play button. The simulator opens up. You see you have two objects and you can move them, and it makes I don't know, turn that funny noise off. It used to be a button you could turn the sound off, but anyway, you can move them around, make them closer or further, and you measure using a meter stick how far apart they are. You can change the mass of any of the objects, okay? Or if you want to just slide, you can do that. But if you want to increase by ones, Now, there are no decimal points, so don't worry about that. The other thing I'll tell you is to help is that if you put it in scientific notation, the forces make more sense when you see them written like that, as opposed to with all those zeros, right? So if you put it in scientific notation, it's easier to read, okay? So what happens here is as you change the mass, change the distance, the value of the force changes. But you notice that this object is being pulled to the right. The purple object is being pulled to the right with 1.43 times 10 to the negative 7 newtons. And the red object is being pulled to the left with the same amount because it's an attractive force. They pull toward each other, okay? So what you're gonna be doing with this simulator is changing the distance and the mass for object 1 and object 2 to see how much force you generate, okay? That's one of the things you'll be working on. So you, is it pretty clear on how to use the simulator? Okay, I'll take that as a yes. All right, so what are you gonna do with it? Let's take a look at that. Okay. So you can see from this handout that what you're gonna be doing is changing the distances and the masses, getting the force from the simulator, and then using it to calculate the gravitation constant, okay? So that's what you're gonna do for this first table. You put in the mass values, you put in the distance values by changing it on the simulator. It gives you the force, and then you use that to calculate the gravitation constant, all right? And then after you've done that in the table, it asks you to average your values for the gravitation constant. So you take them, add them all up, divide by however many they have. I think it's 8. And then they ask you for the published value of G. Well, I gave you that value in lecture. You can go back and look at the lecture notes. That value is written as 6.67 times 10 to the negative 11 Newton meter squared per kilogram squared, right? And then they ask you for the units for G. Well, I just said Newton meter squared per kilogram squared, right? And then where you got that from? Well, you got that information out of my notes, or if you Googled it. And then here, under how did your value of G compare to the published value? So how did your average value compare to the published value? They're asking you to do a percent error calculation, all right? So after you do that, then you basically answer the remaining questions, okay? So after you've completed the experiment, now I gave you a handout here that can help you with how to calculate G. All right, there's some handouts here. If you click on that link, it tells you how you can use the simulator values to calculate G. Okay, and then I tell you for the percent error, use the G average value and the G actual value, right? Okay, and I believe I even did an example of using some measurements to calculate G to show you how to do it. So if you go into this folder, then that can help you tremendously on knowing what to, how to calculate G to fill in the table. Of course, you have a post lab that you have to do. Post lab means what? You answer some questions and then you go back and have a discussion with your classmates, at least 2 of them, on what they posted. And then the last thing you have to do is the lab report, okay? So notice you're writing the full lab report. Don't forget abstract and conclusion. The data is your completed experiment handout. All right. So any questions on that? All right. Well, I see that I've kind of lost everybody. Nobody's still here. So with that, I will stop my share and stop the video. And hi, Zachary. I thought I lost you. I actually
Well, I'm sorry. Like my internet's been going in and out, and
okay.
it's from my neighbors. So
So here's what I
I
did.
try.
I went through
Okay.
everything. I went through everything. Everything in terms of the instructions is recorded. So I'm gonna post the recording here, and as soon as I can get it captioned. And so you can look at that recording to kind of help you to get through the experiment. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Basically, the routine. You go out to the website, you use the simulator, you complete the experiment handout, you write a lab report, and you do the discussion. That's the basic routine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand. I'm sorry. I was
Oh,
just,
no problem. I get it.
I've been busy right now, but I'm trying to like have it playing with me, but it's my internet's just been messing up right now. So
Okay. Yeah. Well, when you get a minute and things kind of stabilize, just take a look at the recording. And of course, if you're working and you have questions, you can always reach out to me.
yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.